successful because it was preventing free access to information, which was then impacting on reproductive rights. And that's a very good example. It's called the Open Law Counseling case. I can't remember the full title, but it'll be on our website, where the court said you really provided an avenue where through information, because again we've seen the reproductive rights definition under the current program of action. Information is, it's vital. So the court played a very strong influential role in that case. And then, access to information was given. So, the courts are, very clearly a good avenue.
Yes, that have been taking is the dishonest feelings by family members of the like the girls, and the brothers, educated brothers killing their own sister, and the phenomena is increasing. So just like dowry demands and the dowry, the dumping of baby girls in dustbin which does not show any sex ratio, many of these pathologies which are maybe showing the gender violence at one level worse. I think it's very, very important what needs to be the legal, in terms of change of policy, because there is no such thing. Like there was no hazardous drugs and Cosmetics Act for banning. There is no such thing as this kind of deals. They don't come under anything. And even the monitoring and the documentation of that, and they misusing that the girl was abducted and raped. So someone is saying negotiation about the sexual relationship. Here are marriage legally which is allowed above the age of 18. And incest definition, like in Andhra Pradesh, girls marry their uncles and this is supposed to be okay. Culturally, usually that in some communities supposed to be done. In Haryana, getting married to a girl in the same village is incest. And the question of Motras, your fathers, grandfathers, 5 generations like that, any of those words is considered wrong. It is considered comes under part of it. So this is what we never taught. What is incest in certain communities and why is this kind of reaction? And the people who are doing that is the family members. And many of them are educated and developed. They are not illiterate fathers. So the question is, how do we become legally, socially, head group as part of reproductive health? I think there is an urgency about it.
You had mentioned that there are real guys in Rajasthan. That's true also in the area of Andhra researching. There are real men and women and we work in journeys. And it's in certain hilly areas also. It's just part of the illustration of the diversity and then also perhaps the unevenness service in the tradition as well. So, right now the question before HRLN and those of us who have been associated with this semi-initiative, I suppose, is whether or not to file a petition, PIL, in favor of reinstating guys in the NRHM. And I would first of all believe that we haven't had enough education from your side about, what are the pros and cons legally and what approaches. I had a chance to read through the 2008 drafting of the draft PIL, and I think parts of it are strong, but parts of it are off the wall and they're not okay. Yesterday in our discussion, we generally felt that I think that we are not ready, without thrashing of these issues, we're not ready to file a PIL. On the other hand, we're very much aware of the urgency of it. So, my question that is in my mind topmost is how to move faster on deciding our strategy with regard to guys and then fulfilling the needs and the needs of the support of this and alongside of this. And one of the needs I think is a strong status report on the situation of work with guys, all organizations that have done work with guys, and many of them are just afraid crucial because first of all, we have to have a well worked out PIL and a strategy. The PIL may be simple, relatively simple, but the strategy has to cover the various complex and contradictory issues. And then we support the organizing alongside it. So how do we pull this together? I just don't know. It's just fascinating. I'm so involved in a research project that I'm not able to say I can get into organizing. I'd love to. Could you contact me, I suppose, just to then to somehow have someone bring together the issues. We will all contribute, but to locate some person who would.
I just wanted to highlight one or two things. That when we are talking of policies, then something like that, teachers don't concentrate on the expenditure of money. We don't just concentrate on the expenditure of money. That is not the indicator. Indicator always has the quantitative and the qualitative part. And for the qualitative part, we have to design something according to the hospital or the health facility to find out in the NOC what has actually happened. And if there are gaps at the structure level, gap at the supply level, gap at the inventory level, and gap at the service level, then certainly we can find out the issues and we can do something from the law. And
we did this right to home case along with the right to home campaign and the UCL and so on. The contribution is of the UCL and all the other organizations. People write a small input in terms of law. But we took a situation which in 2001 was so critical, to a situation in 2010 that is critical but not time. And now our friends have gone into the National Advisory Committee and so on, and we are hopeful we'll get an act and so on and so forth. So we are not going forward, we are not going backward, but we have prevented or got in the system as far as food is concerned. I believe right to water is such a critical issue where in the next couple of years, if we don't take up as a movement the issue of right to water, we may be completely finished off in that sense. But the right to water movement is a very fragmented movement and it's not able to, it's a very powerful movement but very fragmented and not able to come together. The right to food situation, going back again, I'm sorry I forgot, the right to food situation was very fragmented actually in 2001 and very demoralized. The activists were very demoralized in 2001 when the case was done. We didn't expect to even get a vision of the case, but Justice Kirpal had written the petition, made it an all-country petition, and suddenly we got blood in our veins, so to speak, and we were managing to do the case. And then with every order, we got even more Josh and more Josh. It's a case. One of those strange cases where the legal system gives an impetus to the movement. And today I would say the movement is as powerful as the case, maybe even more powerful than the case. So we are not so dependent on the case anymore. The movement is managing to do its thing much more than that. I believe the right to health has come to that situation. It's one of those critical situations because of privatization, where the conditions in the country are so terrible, so awful. Public hospitals are in such terrible shape. You just have to read the Delhi papers to see the leading hospitals, AIIMS, all these Delhi public hospitals, the full page coverage. The media is doing such a terrific job in exposing the failure of the government hospitals and so on. Privatization has proceeded so much apace. All this rubbish of public-private participation, use of fees and all that is so entrenched that if we don't act on the right to health in the next 1